Hello everybody, Razorblade Mango here. Apologies for not having any actual video footage of Outlast 2. My idiot ass forgot to record some after the initial stream of the first 2 hours of the game, and seeing as how I deleted the game immediately once I finished it, I just was not in the mood to download it all over again just to record footage. So gonna go back to the old school Razorblade Mango for this video with a nice stock images, I should say. So this is Outlast 2, which is the sequel to the very, very damn good horror game Outlast, which came out in 2013. It remains to this day one of my very favorite horror games. And the sequel is developed and published once again by Red Barrels. Genre is, of course, survival horror, and it's available for $29.99 on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. And the thing I can say about Outlast 2 to start with is this was a letdown for me. As someone who is a big fan of the original Outlast, this one just did not do it for me at all. It felt very weak compared to the first one. And even on its own right, on its own merits, it is kind of a weak horror experience. The game blows its wad very early on with the opening 2 hours, and unfortunately that's the only footage I have on the channel, and you can hear, of course, that I am enjoying the game. I like it, but after that it just goes downhill, and basically what you get in the first 2 hours feels like that's repeated throughout the entire game, which feels a lot longer than it actually is. Like, I finished it in about 7 hours, but it felt twice that long because of how unengaged I was with the rest of it. And as I said, one of my biggest issues with the game is that it's just not all that scary. It does things and it goes to places that I have seen done before in plenty of other horror games and movies, and done a lot better. And particularly in the first Outlast, it's like this game was designed just to try to outdo themselves. But the problem is you can't really outdo Outlast, because not only does the original Outlast have some of the most gruesome, horrifying imagery I've seen in a horror game, and it's terrifying. Like, I remember sequences from Outlast that had the hair on the back of my neck standing up because of how tense I was. Like, I got so tense that my stomach started to hurt, and that's no hyperbole at all. That's legitimately how I felt playing the original Outlast. And you talk about the gold standard for gross, cringe-inducing stuff. Look no further than the Outlast Whistleblower DLC. If you have never played the original Outlast, go do it. Go play that, then go download Outlast Whistleblower, which Outlast Whistleblower, if you I think any man out there that plays Outlast Whistleblower is going to be cringing their asses off, or cringing their penises off, depending on, you know. I don't want to spoil too much about what happens in the Outlast Whistleblower DLC, but I will say that it is 10 times grosser than anything that happens in Outlast 2. Like, I have a strong stomach, and the shit that happens in those games just makes me cringe like nothing, like very few things ever do. But the whole time in Outlast 2, it feels like they're just trying to outdo themselves. And as a result, it just comes off as this, like, flailing, desperate attempt to recapture lightning in a bottle again. Because the original Outlast felt like, you know, it had that clear, concise spark of ingenuity to it. Yes, the environment in the original Outlast is not all that original. It is, an insane asylum. How many things have we seen with insane asylums? A lot. But what they did with the original Outlast was, not only was the asylum itself very memorable, they filled it with a lot of really cool chase set piece moments and really scary shit and characters that I remember to this day more than most other horror games. Like characters from that, like Amnesia, I can't remember a single monster from it compared to the grotesque figures that haunt the original Outlast. But that isn't really here as well either. Probably the most disappointing thing about this is that the villains are just very underused, and some of them are underused, and one of them in particular is way overused. And it's the woman you've seen in all the artwork that has the big cross axe thing. And when I saw her, and you can see it in my live stream of the first 2 hours, I was terrified running away from that thing. I was like, holy shit. But then they do it again and again and again. And it just, once you see it, it starts to lose its, once you see her like over and over again, she loses her impact. And that's a shame, because her, I don't know the character's name, but that character has the potential to be something really good, really creepy. Her theme is great. The theme that plays when she pops up is better than the character itself. And and it's tied to some of the puzzle elements you have to do with this game. There's a really frustrating bit where you have to run away from her and lure her to this other area where then you push this wheelbarrow to get over this gate, and it gets frustrating because you're pushing it, and all of a sudden you hear the music that starts to play. It's very good music though, when she's coming towards you, which means, oh, I gotta turn around and run away from her, and then run back to the area to get her over there, then play chicken and go swoop back around and try to push the wheelbarrow some more, or the thing, or the cart, or whatever you have to do. And there were moments like that in the original Outlast, but they were actually rather few and far between, and you had a clear idea of where you could go, because that setting, the asylum, was very tight, very linear. There wasn't a lot of exploration you could do. But here, they try to open it up, the environment, and it doesn't really work, because you tend to get lost, and then when you get lost during these chase sequences, that proves to be very frustrating, because you're just trying to find the one thing that will progress the story, or the one little hidden dent in a gate or hole you gotta dig through in order to escape, and it can be very vague trying to find them. And that's not good, because then it will repeat. When you die a lot, you repeat the same chase sequences over and over again, and the checkpointing is not particularly great during some of them. There was a bit, and you can see it in the live stream, where I had to repeat this maybe 4 or 5 times. It was this long process of opening this door, moving this thing, going under this hole, and then it was a long push under this hole, and then you had to find this one area where you had to go and stamp your feet and get through it, and then you could easily die in that bit, and if you die in that bit, you have to go all the way back and do it again. And those segments can be, exciting their first time, but the game does a bad job of communicating where you're supposed to go. So you see the same sequences again and again, and they just lose their impact. Same with the enemies. You see the enemies a lot, because if you die a lot, you get this gruesome bit where they grab you, they chop your balls off, they stab you through the head, they stab you through the spinal cord, a multitude of things. But because you're seeing the enemies again and again up close, they lose their impact. And that happened, for me at least, that happened a lot less so in the original. And the original had those frustrating moments, but they were very few and far between. But it felt more frequent in this. which sucks because I was really looking forward to this game. And everything I'd been hearing about it, like with the whole concept of it being, you know, I find the idea of this like Jonestown-esque cult and situation far more interesting than an insane asylum. But they don't do anything interesting with it. And another big problem with this game is that it's so vague. Like, the story is so vague. And these characters, they don't, like, the characters you really want to see really don't appear all that much. Like, the main guy, Knox, who's the leader of this congregation, you barely see him. You get the, you know, the cliche, you know, bits where you hear him over the loudspeaker and he's talking to the whole congregation and about, you know, killing the cunt of hell and shit like that. And it just is like, he's not scary because you never have any kind of personal interactions with him. Only one time do you ever directly talk to him. And by then it is far too little, far too late. And they, of course, they have to do the bit where you're hiding and you get to see the villains do villainous things. And so imagine that scene in Far Cry 4 where you are watching Pagan Min massacre this family. And you're watching it through these floorboards. And they do that in Outlast 2, not once, but twice. They do it once for the Axe Chick, once for Sullivan Knox. And it doesn't make them scary. Because these scenes are so cliche, and I've seen them done way better, and it's not frightening to me. It's just gross torture. That's it. That's all it is. It doesn't make me more scared of them. And talk about a crappy story. Like, the original Outlast doesn't have that great of a story. It has a pretty stupid ending, but they take that to another extreme here, where it is so vague what is going on, and it tries to pull this thing at the end in a really anticlimactic final act that is such a letdown and so stupid. Even when compared to the stupid ending of the first game, this is stupid. Like, I was rolling my eyes by like the last 10 minutes. And then when it finally ended and you see the credits, I was like, that's it? That's what they were going for? Are you fucking serious, guys? Come on. Like, I know horror games and horror movies have a, you know, can get a bad reputation for not having satisfying endings, but come on. This takes the fucking cake as far as I'm concerned. This is one of the dumbest endings I've come across in a long time. It tries to play this thing of like, oh, you know, you decide for yourself what happened, and that doesn't work here. That doesn't work because it's not giving me any kind of, you know, urgency to go and find the story for myself. Because you gotta find all the documents, you gotta find all the shit, the recordings, and it's like, that's side stuff. And while that's fine, like, I'm okay with games having side stuff in order to, like, you know, flesh out the narrative to a degree, when your game relies on that wholeheartedly, like, if you have no desire to get the recordings, you have no desire to look up the documents, you're fucked. You're going to be stuck with this weak-ass story that doesn't give you any kind of satisfying beginning, middle, and end. It's just a weak story. And it's so lame. It's just a lame-ass story. And I expect so much better from Red Barrels. Even with the dumb shit that they pull in the first game. That was still far better compared to everything in this. It's just, it's disappointing. It's a disappointing story because it had such potential to be so much more interesting with this cult and this creepy religious stuff that I like so much. But even then, it's like the commentary and about Catholic guilt and like the things that come with that, and the, you know, oh, God and Satan are one and the same. It's like, oh, come on, guys. This has been done so many times that I don't find it scary anymore. At least the way you're presenting it, I don't find it scary. But positive things I can say about the game is that oh, one more negative before I go on to the positive. The battery life in this game. I thought the battery life on the camera was short in the first one, but damn does it feel even worse in this one. I know it wants to encourage you to go out and try to find the batteries, but it's like I'm trying to have fun with this game. And the game is like constantly tugging on my arm, like, oh, hey, you need batteries. Hey, you need bandages, which is not a good healing system, by the way. The new healing system where you can collect bandages because your health no longer auto regenerates, which, you know, didn't really make a lot of sense in the original game, but that's preferable to this, where you have to constantly find bandages, or else you get this really crappy Resident Evil 7-esque blood splatter effect that just this ugly effect on the screen, and then it like constantly harasses you for more batteries, constantly tugs on your sleeve. Hey, I know you're having fun, you want to go exploring, but you got to go find these batteries. You got to go find these bandages, and you can't run and heal yourself at the same time. Like if you're getting chased and you're low on health, you got to wait, you got to hope that you lose them, stop, and then bandage yourself. There's no way to bandage yourself when you're like running. Like, I can bandage myself while I'm running, and I'm not that coordinated, okay? I can do that. Why can't this guy? Alright, because he's very weak, as they say in the opening credits. Which, I know this series is all about, you know, the cameras. You know, you are weaponless. Running is your best friend. But after playing Resident Evil 7, where you're granted access to this wide variety of weaponry, it's like it seems silly that he would not pick up a gun, or like let's say guns don't exist in his universe. There are knives all around him. There are pitchforks that he could use to attack these guys. Why is he not doing that? Like, the original Outlast, the guy had a gun in his glove compartment. He left it in his car, thinking he wouldn't need it. And there really aren't any weapons in that Asylum, but there are plenty of weapons he could use in Outlast 2. Like pitchforks, knives, hooks, meat cleavers, like lots of things, lots of offensive items. And he never thinks to grab them. And I know that seems like a silly complaint, but my suspension of disbelief like really got stretched with this game, particularly after like some of the fucking crazy shit that he has to go through in order to find his wife. It's like, I would have picked up a weapon. I would have. I wouldn't have just held on to my camera the whole time. And the camera is just really clunkily put in this time around. Like, there are some bits where it works, but the game does this weird thing where like you have to like now hold the camera up to a certain period of time in order to record certain things, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because he'll record things that are just weird, but then there will be like fucked up shit like people in, you know, iron cages that have been like starved and like are like bone thin, and there's like skinned people on crosses, and like he doesn't think to film that stuff. It's just like, okay, you'll film this sign or this building, but you're not going to film these like crucifixions. It's like, okay, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anything good about the game? Yeah, there's quite a few things that I did like. The best parts of this game are the hallucinations that you go through, and I wish they had just been the full game. It felt like they came from a better game, because you're not running away from anything. You're going down these like linear corridors, and you get spooked in this like school environment. And his past with like the traumatic thing that happens in his childhood because of one of his friends' suicide, and the reason for that, it's predictable as fuck, but it's more compelling than the stuff that happens in, you know, like the present day, what's going on. And they never explain those hallucinations, by the way. So I'm going to spoil that right there. They never explain it. So good luck trying to figure out what that is. It's another one of those, oh, you decide for yourself. It's so annoying when they pull. I hate it when games pull that. And the way Outlast 2 does it just grinds my fucking gears. You're not like running away from anything in these hallucinations. You're just exploring this like one linear creepy environment. It's like it turns into a walking simulator. And that, I prefer that to more running. I prefer that to yet another dumb chasing that relies too much on trial and error. I prefer that. Also, the game looks great, runs great on my PC, has a very good soundtrack. The standout, of course, is the Axe Chicks theme, which I think is super, super creepy and far creepier than anything in the game. Voice acting is good, even though the things they're given to say are dumb. Voice acting's good. I like that the main character speaks. I like that the main character has an actual motivation to stay in this area, unlike the guy in the last game, which the guy in the last game, it was just, oh, to get his story. Okay. That's dumb. Well, here, it's you're trying to find your wife and rescue your wife. That's a better motivation than, oh, I'm going to stay here to get my story. That's it. But those are things I liked about the Outlast 2. But when all is said and done, I had that like typical like sinking feeling in my stomach where I was just like, man, that was such a bummer. And that could have been so awesome, but it's not. It's just so meh. It's a very meh game, and I was just disappointed. Yeah, this is one of the ones that I was disappointed by, because I'm a big fan of the first game, but this one was just weak. Just super weak compared to the first one. Let's hope they learned a lesson for Outlast 3. Make it more linear, make it tighter, get better writers involved, because the writing in this game is not good, to say the very least. So, would I recommend Outlast 2? Not at the price that it's at right now. If you're a fan of the original Outlast and want to give it a shot, I'd honestly just wait for a sale. Wait till that, the Halloween sale that will eventually roll around on Steam, where you can get horror games for super cheap. And by then, maybe even a DLC bit will have come out for it. So you can pick that up with the game for maybe less than the price of the base game right now. So anyone else that doesn't like the original Outlast? No, God no, I would not recommend this. Even then, like if you're a horror fan, never played the original Outlast, go play that instead. Go play that. Go get the Whistleblower DLC. They're dirt cheap right now. And then after that, try out Resident Evil 7, which is a much better survival horror game. And it's weird that Resident Evil does Outlast better than Outlast now. So, yeah. My one final thing I will say about Outlast 2 is that scene in PT, where in PT in general is a very vague game. It doesn't explain a lot, like what's going on, who you even are, what your connection is to that house. But the way it tells its story and the way it puts in these like genuinely unnerving, gross, disturbing experiences and set pieces. Like, there are so many things in PT that I remember to this day that freak me out. And to this day, that freak me out. And, like, the bits in that are much scarier. The bit where, like, the baby is in the refrigerator and it's swinging. The bit where you go through the crack in the door and then Lisa slams the door in your face. Lisa herself is terrifying. The bit when the thing smashes against the wall from upstairs and you look up and you see the ghost staring down at you. Not a very, very little blood in PT. And yet what that manages to do is much more effective and much scarier than all the blood and gore and sex and tits that are in, and vagina that are in Outlast 2. Those to me just feel like, hey, look at me, I'm creepy, I'm gross, I'm scary. Am I scary yet? Ooh, am I scary? And it's like, no, you're not. You're just annoying me at this point. So anyway, that's my experience with Outlast 2. I'm very much looking forward to it, and it let me down. Play the original one. You can skip this one for the time being. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you like, see, subscribe. Let me know what you think about Outlast 2. And thank you everyone for watching. Take care, everybody.